we're going to be talking about candidate research today and how important candidate research is for, making sure that the way you are voting is consistent with the values that you hold. Nobody in this organization or any nonprofit organization can tell you how to vote. It's illegal for us. We'll lose our nonprofit status if we do that. So what this really is us trying to give you the tools so that you can make the decisions that you want to make with your ballot, as well as give you the tools to be able to help other people make their own decisions as well. Something that Brain Injury Alliance really cares about is making sure that folks feel like they are given the tools to succeed at doing things the way they want to do them. So how you vote, how both physically how you vote and who you vote for, all of that should be up to you, and we're just here to make sure that you have the tools to be successful at that. But let's talk about the reason why we are all here today, and it is deciding who we want to vote for. So to do that, we're going to have to do some candidate research, which is really exciting. So when evaluating who we want to vote for, it's important to do a few things. Number one is to decide what strengths you're looking for in a candidate. All of these strengths, I typically like to prioritize before I do candidate research. So what am I looking for going into this process? And that's something that we'll talk about. I like to know my own position on issues and then research what other people's positions are. And then we'll do research to find those positions. Learning about any leadership, abilities. This is sort of similar to strengths. What do I value in leadership? And then just doing my best to recognize distortions of the information so that I can try to remain as unbiased as possible when going through this process. So number one, we have to decide what we're looking for in a candidate. So candidates are typically judged in one of two ways. It's issue positions and then leadership qualities. So I want this to be kind of interactive. So is this sort of the entire list? Or which one of these do folks value more, do you think? Rebecca?
I value more the issue positions. Is that what you meant? Which one?
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, okay. Because it's important that they, are similar to what I want.
Well said. That's part of the research, right? Coffee John?
I think that both are very important, though. Leadership and experience is often underrated. Yes, we don't want the same old white guys in every position, but there is credence in the leadership qualities and experience category.
Well said. So these are typically the two ways that folks are looking at candidates when they are examining who to vote for. Now let's just get it out in the open. There are national level leaders that people are going to have positions on already, existing, right? That no matter how much you agree with an issue position or not, it might be that you just don't like the person, right? They've been around, you don't like what they've said before, all these things. These tools are going to be extremely useful for your state and local races. These are going to be most useful there. There is we all know who's running for office. I feel like most people have already developed a position if they like the people running or not, right? At this point, in issue-based research might not be the best for some of the candidates running for some of the offices. But I maintain that this is the best way to look at any race is to look at actual issue positions and leadership and experience to try to make the best decision possible. So the first step we have to do then is to figure out who the candidates are. And surprise, surprise, we use mnvotes.org to do that. So we can go to mnvotes.org and use sample ballots to determine the candidates that are going to be on our ballot. Your local newspapers, if you subscribe to a local news source, will probably also have information on the candidates who are running, especially once it gets closer to election day. Those local papers, I know, like Hometown Sources one, there's, the Dakota County ones that still run. A little bit more difficult to find these days, but they will typically have information. But the best and easiest way to figure it out is mnvotes.org. On the sample ballot page, you'll have an entire list of everybody who's on your ballot. And if they have a website, they have a link to that website that they submit with their candidacy information that then mnvotes.org links to. So you can just click on their name and it'll go to their campaign website, which is...
That's a nifty idea.
Yeah, it's incredibly helpful. It's a huge time saver, so people don't have to do a whole bunch of extra work. It makes it really accessible for people.
Can I jump in about the leadership qualities and experience? Sometimes those guys have been in there too long, and you need to get them out of there for change.
Yeah, that is something that a lot of people vote on as well. Just as an example, we're past the primary stage of the campaign, but there were a few older Dems who got ousted in their primary campaigns this year because their challengers were running in Minnesota local races, were running on the fact that they hadn't changed positions, or they had been in there for too long and we needed fresh voices. And that's definitely part of, campaigning is knowing when your time's up as well, and trying to make room for some new innovation. So thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Lisa, for bringing that up.
Can I bring something else up? I'm sorry, Zach.
Yeah, for sure.
I just want to let you guys know that, and you guys, that I, when I flipped over the ballot, I looked up on my computer all the incumbents to see who they were. If I didn't agree with what they were doing, I didn't vote for them. And I knew who they were. I knew who the majority of people were because of the work I do here, because of what I learned here. And so it's very, very cool. Thank you. You
are welcome. I'm glad that you are using the tools that you have available. But yeah, so then we're going to go into step 3 here, which is actually gathering information on those candidates. So once we have our ballot from mnvotes.org, and we have all the links to the websites, we can then start the researching phase of the operation here. So there's a whole bevy of information out there on all of these candidates, and there are so many ways to look for new information. You have the campaign literature, and including their website. So that's that link that's right there on mnvotes.org. You can click there and see where they stand on what positions they have. There's nonpartisan voter websites that have just like the bare bones facts on where people stand, not trying to sway you one way or the other like a campaign website will do. There's your direct mailers that you'll sometimes get in the mail. Sometimes they're attack ads on someone, sometimes they're pro, but both of them work. Both of them will have information that you can use. There's, press reports, newspaper articles, radio spots, television ads, all of those things. And then there are speeches, there are forums that you can listen to and participate in. There are debates you can watch, all these things, as well as if they are already in office, if they're the incumbent, they'll have a voting record that you can look up as well on issues that you care about. So all of this massive amount of places that you can look really comes down to just doing your due diligence on your research and how in depth you want to go. So sometimes looking just at the campaign websites, you'll be able to tell, based on the way people are talking on these issues, I don't need to go look anymore. But sometimes it'll be harder to decide between the two. They'll both have really good points. Maybe there's a third party candidate that has really good points that you want to look more into. So then that's where you can go to those debates. You can go to voting records. You can go to ads to look into those potential candidates that you like. So yeah, that's the researching part. So now once we do all that researching, we actually have to evaluate our candidates' stances on issues. So at the end of your binder, there should be a spreadsheet and that's what's being referenced on this is a tracking tool. So I'm going to quickly switch over to that just for 1 second here. Where did it go? Hold on. Lost it. There it is. Sorry about that. So this is something called an issue grid. And this is the tracking tool that I've always used when I'm trying to do my research, that I tell other people to use when they're doing their research. You decide which issues that you care about. You write them all down in this first column here. And then you write down the candidate's name at the top, right up here. And then you go through and if you can find information on where they stand, you write down all the possible information on them in these little boxes. You can also do it by hand. You can type it, whatever is easiest for you. If you need to print it out on big paper or you need to use Post-it notes, however you want to do it. But just doing a little grid so that it's side by side and you can compare easily back and forth is the best way to do that. So let me put this back up here. So then once you have your opinions on something, then you can actually look at what other people have and cross-reference those opinions to see which one you are more in line with. Do the candidates agree or disagree with you? And if there's something of more importance that you agree on everything that one party says, and then you disagree, or one candidate, and you disagree on one issue, is that one issue enough to overpower everything else? These are all questions that you have to ask yourself. But sometimes, especially for local races or really specific issues like we might face in the brain injury community, they might not have information on your issue. So there's a few things that you can do to try to gather that information. Most campaigns will have some form of contacting them that works to try to get more information about where the candidate stands. They'll usually have a phone number or an email for a contact person. You might not get the answer right that second because they might just be a point of contact and have to redirect you, but you'll hopefully be able to get the answer that way. There's other ways to do it. You can attend a town hall forum. I believe a lot of candidates are doing virtual town hall forums this fall that you could potentially participate in. And then actually another way to do it is to use social media to ask them on their page. If they have a Twitter, tweet at them. If they have a Facebook, post on their campaign Facebook wall. Where do you stand on Medicaid? Would you fund more in Medicaid for people with disabilities? A perfectly valid question that hopefully their campaign, whoever runs that page, will be able to answer eventually. And then this is not the best for this year, is attend a meet and greet with that candidate. Don't go in person, but they're doing some virtual ones. A lot of candidates are doing like virtual meet and greets where you go on a Zoom call and talk to them. But in the future, in a post-pandemic world, people will definitely be hosting meet and greets with the candidates again, and it's a really good place to go look. So then is the other part. We have to look at candidates' leadership abilities and how well do you think that how well equipped are they to lead? How good of a leader do you think they'll be? Are they prepared for the job? Do you think that they've put in the time to be the candidate that you support? What's really important, especially in local races, is their willingness to engage with people who disagree with them. Not every issue is hyper partisan national level politics. Some issues are just a difference of opinion, but they still need to engage with each other to get something meaningful passed. How likely are they to do that? Are some people care about if the campaign is a pro Zach, or if I'm running against Molly, is it pro Zach or is it anti Molly? Like, am I running because I'm a better candidate, or am I running because she's not a good candidate? Because sometimes that means I'm also not a great candidate either. If I have nothing good to say about myself. And then finally, just do you think they're qualified for the job? That's what it comes down to, is do you think that they would be good in the office that they're running for? And you just have to ask yourself those questions. And sometimes it doesn't matter. Sometimes you say, well, Zach might not be good, but I definitely would rather have Zach than Molly. That would never happen. But it is a possibility in some races that, even if you don't think that their leadership qualities are better, you agree on the issue positions, or you really agree on issue positions, but you don't like the person and you don't think they have the experience or the leadership, so maybe you don't want to vote for them this time. These are all completely valid reasons to vote or not vote for someone. So then this is just bonus content, basically, is you can look at how other people are viewing the race. It shouldn't ever replace what you're feeling about your candidate or your own research, but it can help reinforce or inform or provide some amount of assurance that what you are saying or thinking is on the right track for what you want to believe. So you can look at who's endorsed a candidate. Let's say I am super into, I don't know. What's a good example, Molly? No, I got it. Let's say I'm a banker. Let's say I'm a credit union banker. Okay. And the credit unions have endorsed one candidate. Well, that might make it easier for me to want to vote for that candidate because, a job in a profession that I care about, that union or that organization is endorsing this candidate. So that means they probably agree with similar to what would be helpful for me in my day-to-day life. As an example, there are a lot of groups out there that do endorsements. Those are not 501c3s. That's what we are. We can't do any amount of endorsement in our organization. And so those groups that do it have an agenda, and they are allowed to, with the tax codes, to endorse. Coffee John, did you have a question? Oh, okay, sounds good. If you want to get really in the weeds, you can look at their campaign finance reports and see which political action committees or PACs or super PACs have donated to their campaigns. So if there's a interest group that you do not like and they're donating heavily to one person, that is maybe an indication that they don't agree with your position on that issue. That this is bonus content. So you definitely don't have to get this in the weeds. But if you're really concerned about in one race and you just can't make up your mind, you could do this. And then looking at polling data is just like seeing who's in the lead. If there's one candidate who's really in the lead and you can't figure out why, I mean, looking at that polling data is, A lot of people trust their view on healthcare. What's their stance on this issue? Did I misread it, or should I go back and reread it? All these questions that you can ask yourself. Is it an unbiased indicator of the race? It depends on how good the polls are. If it's a bunch of internal polls from the campaign that are getting released, of course, they're going to show their candidate doing better than they probably are. So you just need to be careful about trusting polls, as it's more of a snapshot in time of what people were thinking when they got called rather than anything predictive. Even with a 94% chance of winning for someone, that 6% chance is still a 6% chance. Don't ever think that you don't need to vote because polls indicate that your candidate is up by a whole bunch, because those candidates are up by a whole bunch because they're counting on people like you voting in that race to make it work. So definitely always keep polls to the side. But once you have all that done, we can sort it all out. So you have your tracker, you've been writing it down, you've been writing their leadership abilities, their issue positions. Did one of the candidates stand out? Did one have better qualifications that you appreciated more? And then looking at all that, you add up your pluses, you add up your minuses, where you agree and disagree, and then hopefully that'll give you a clearer picture about where you want to cast your vote. Coffee John, yes.
Vote often, vote early.
Yes.
You only vote once, John.
I'm just
vote once per race and vote early.
I'm
yes,
a stick, sorry.
But every single race matters. Every single ballot matters, right? So just to put it in perspective, in 2018, in the midterms, there was a state house race that was decided by less than 10 votes. Yeah, Tawana, I see your face. Yes, by less than 10 votes, this race was decided. So, if there are 8 people who are like, it's fine, I don't need to go vote, and then their candidate loses. Oh no, that's on you. You didn't go and use your voice. Yeah, Mark.
Zach, doesn't that 10 vote difference cause a automatic recount?
Yep, and it's still, the recount was, got certified that was the correct vote.
What is the minimum difference that causes that will trigger a recount?
I believe it's
5% or 2% or?
Yeah, it's a low percentage. I would have to look that up.
Okay, just curious.
Yeah, no, of
I think
the
it's
ballots
one
cast,
and it's paid for by the public, and if it's 3 or less, a candidate can request it if they pay for it. Or there's some weird law like that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Thanks, Jeff.
Yes. But yeah, so that's that. But all throughout all of this, what you're going to run into is something called distortions. All right, and this is super critical that you understand that these are out there. Both sides, all sides, however you want to look at it, every single campaign is using these. And what they're doing is they're trying to bend the truth enough to make their candidate look as good as possible or their opponent to look as bad as possible. Because it's essentially, a campaign is, persuasion, trying to get you to vote for their candidate or trying to get you to not vote for their opponent. So if there's ever name calling or appeals to prejudice, that's something is, let me try to find an example of any politicians who have ever called another person a name, right? Like there are an abundance of examples of name calling where it's designed to make other people think poorly of that person, trying to make them look not as good of a candidate. There's rumor mongering, so that's something where it's like, I can't verify personally, but I've heard that blank does whatever, and it's like, well, you're just spreading the rumor, and you're trying to, glance it off of, I wasn't the one who said it. I'm just repeating what I've heard. It's up to you to do with that information what you will. So spreading those rumors is a way to distort the truth. Guilt by association. There's a clear example of this for anybody who's been watching any amount of TV. There is an ad against Colin Peterson right now, who's the 7th congressional candidate, who's been in office for a while, and the entire ad is them saying, he votes 4 out of 5 times with Nancy Pelosi. So then they're trying to get people to realize, to think that because he votes with Nancy Pelosi, he is guilty of being Nancy Pelosi. However you want to take that, it's a guilt by association type of ad. There's catchwords that people use. These can be catchphrases that make people think of them. Think of, for instance, "Make America Great Again." Is that a catchword that got all of you thinking about one person? It's pretty good at making sure that you start thinking of their campaign again. Passing the blame. It wasn't me. It was their side that blocked that vote. All of that stuff like that. I'm doing my best. It's those people who are the ones that are causing problems. Plenty of examples of that all the time. Promising the sky. If you elect me as, as senator, I promise you that I will make sure 100% of federal government money goes to Minnesota. Probably not, but it's an example of promising the sky. You're over promising just to try to catch more people up in your votes, and then evading real issues. So if there's an issue, say on how you would vote for a Supreme Court nominee, and you say something like, yeah, that's a real issue. Judicial, importance is, we got to make sure the judicial branch remains impartial. And then you move on without saying how you would vote on a Supreme Court nominee. That's one way of just like sidestepping and letting other issues slide by and trying to answer it by responding to something completely different. But every campaign does this. It is just part of the game that folks like to play. And this is just one thing to keep in mind when you're looking at all of these campaign documents, these campaign lit pieces, even debates and everything. These are going to show up, and you got to just keep an eye out for them. So that is where we're at for. And thank you to all of you for joining us. It really has been an awesome time doing a virtual one. It's been great that we've had, folks who it's inaccessible to meet in person, that we finally have the option where we have more participation. So it's great to see that. And I hope all of you have a great rest of your day. I hope to see you on Monday. If you want to hear me give the same thing again, otherwise we will see you soon for some form of Tuesdays at the Capitol.